want to start this video a little differently than most. A homeschool mom recently left a comment on one of my videos, and it really just stopped me in my tracks. And it didn't stop me because it was overly dramatic or accusatory or anything like that. It stopped me because it was extremely exact in its description. I feel like she put words to something that a lot of women are sensing, but are not necessarily able to fully articulate yet. And she did a really lovely job. The thing to remember is that this was not written by an influencer. This was not a curriculum marketing piece. Instead, it was written by a mom who is in the middle of, daily life. And she was thinking very carefully about what real commitment in homeschool looks like or should look like. So I want to walk through what she said, and this is in no way, shape, or form critiquing what she said. I just really felt like it was such a beautiful comment, and I didn't want it to just get lost. I wanted to give it a bit of a platform, so to speak, because I feel like she just did a lovely job articulating what so many of us are feeling and thinking. So I just wanted to break it down here. Fleshing out what the obsessed level looks like as far as I can see it from my vantage point below. 1, a mom who sees her role in the home as taking dominion of her family's daily habits, and her role in education as taking dominion of renewed minds strengthened to serve God. She doesn't just teach subjects, she teaches all the character traits and disciplines inherent in each. 2, a mom who has spirit-filled emotional stability because she's practiced true biblical minimalism, bringing every thought and habit into submission to God. She doesn't get overwhelmed easily because she and God are walking together to take dominion of her domain one step at a time. 3, a mom who guards her dominion against ungodly or unhelpful influences in a way that reflects the seriousness of spiritual warfare, but also the kindness of a person who knows their good shepherd will protect her, no matter how powerless she feels. 4, a mom who is humbly daily assessing and correcting her own failures before the Lord without blaming her husband, her ministries, her schedule, or her curriculum. 5, a mom who has long lost the immature fear of losing herself because she has seen by experience that he that loseth his life will find it. Her hobbies and thoughts inevitably revolve around family and legacy, and she's buoyed forward by the blessings she's already experienced. Proverbs 31:18. 6, a mom who views homeschooling as a renaissance and who's pushing her own learning forward. She embraces memorization for her whole family because it fills our created need to meditate and lifts us above the influx of modern media. 7, a mom who isn't mom lonely because she trusts the Lord for wise friends and is content in God's presence and the person he's making her. Okay, so let's talk about the dominion of the home part of this comment. So this mom describes herself as someone who sees herself in the role of taking dominion over her family's habits and also her role of helping them to take dominion over their minds. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like that is a very different framework than just a mom who is managing homeschool assignments. The way that she described this actually is inspiring, and it gives you a reason to get out of bed in the morning. Whereas just being an educational facilitator or just being the person checking things off, that's not inspiring at all. That doesn't make me want to get up. It certainly doesn't inspire me to move forward. So I think if we can start framing our jobs and our roles as dominion takers in the same way that this woman has, it will actually help us to move forward a lot more confidently. It's really leadership, and it's understanding, and it's also understanding that home education is not neutral. This is not just a neutral task. It's not just one way of doing things. Our children's character, habits, and standards are being shaped right along with the academic side of their mind. So when a mother sees herself this way, those higher standards that I'm always talking about, the excellence part of homeschool, it's not forced. It flows naturally because the responsibility for this mother actually carries weight. The verse, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord," it's not just another verse that we should memorize and then just file away in our brains. This is actually a posture that we should take every day in our homes. So now let's talk about the emotional stability part of this comment. This was one that really stuck out to me because you really do not hear a lot of women talking about emotional stability. You hear a lot about, what's the word? The buzzword right now is I need to regulate my emotions. And I feel like this is just a fancy way to say get yourself under control, but it really, it kind of means the same thing. So let's dive deeply into this. So we need to remember that emotional stability is not just a personality trait. It is a discipline that we have to practice and that we get stronger at over time. And let's be really clear here. This is something that we should be striving to become stronger at. Being emotionally fragile is not a good character trait. This is not what you should want to emulate. You should want to be emotionally solid. I hear women talking a lot about emotional regulation, and honestly, this is just an advertisement that you have not gotten there yet. This is really something that I'm not saying that we should be stuffing down our emotions, but just because you have emotions and are working through emotions does not mean that you need to broadcast those emotions. There is value and there is honor in being a little bit more stoic with how we're moving through our lives. If our children constantly hear us talking about our emotions and emotional regulation and, I'm at the end of my rope and, just all of these things that women are really known for talking about, that does not inspire confidence. That is not a leader. So if you're struggling with authority in your homeschool, if your children are not obeying you well, and you've been trying to get some more discipline in the homeschool, but you are constantly talking about your emotional regulation, you're sending mixed messages to your children. Peace is often treated like something that you either have or you don't have. But in real life, peace is actually built through order, through submission, and through consistency. So when our habits are aligned and when our days have structure, and when thoughts are brought into submission, overwhelm loses its power. It's just not happening anymore. Now let's talk about guarding the home with discernment. So in this comment, she's talking about a mom who guards her home seriously, but without fear. And this is really where discernment is completely misunderstood. Discernment is not anxiety, and it's definitely not isolation. Discernment is actually a wisdom skill. It is logic, it's pattern recognition, and it is judgment passed over time. So I want to give you a couple of examples of what this looks like in real life. So obviously the first one that is probably popping into your head is screens. Okay, that is the obvious one. It's one that we're all aware of. Yes, we need to be monitoring what our children are doing. We need to be monitoring what our children are reading. We need to be monitoring, what they are using online. Those are all obvious. The one that is less obvious but can be more dangerous even than screens, unfortunately, it is the people that we allow our children to spend time with. For some reason, there are a lot of moms that are under the impression that the friends that their children have, that it's neutral. Okay, that is actually not true. The Bible tells us in many different places that we need to be careful who we are spending our time with, because it is much easier for a sinner to pull a saint down than it is for a saint to pull a sinner up. I'm obviously paraphrasing here. We have personally in our family seen the negative impact of low quality friends. And I know that word is probably causing some people's skin to crawl, but stick with me here. Okay. We are responsible for our children's souls. We are also responsible for helping our children understand who is good for them to spend time with and who is not good for us to spend time with. I personally recognize when I spend time around people who are constantly complaining, maybe about their children and their husbands, have low standards for homeschool, are just complaining a lot in life, or maybe someone who has recently gotten divorced. If I spend time around people like this, my own thoughts start to go downhill. I am an adult woman. I'm 44 years old, and I have a lot of practice being around people Your children are not. They are new to this earth. Even if they are teenagers, they have not spent nearly as much time as you have. If we as adult women are vulnerable to negative influences from friends, from work associates, from people at church, how much more vulnerable are our children? We have a responsibility to make sure that the friends that our children are spending time with are friends that are going to call them up. Okay, they need to have the same values that our children have about academics, about spiritual matters, and about the time that they keep. Because if they do not, your children are going to start going downhill as well. It's inevitable. I don't like it any more than you do. It's just a reality. We would love to think that we can be the home where all of the children come and it doesn't matter, you know, what they've done, who they've spent time around. Our love, our Christian love, will positively influence them, and our children will come out on the other end unscathed. And I'm sorry, but that is simply not true. We have to be way more discerning than that when it comes to who our children are spending time with. Let's talk about ownership without blame. And this actually may be the most important point that this commenter makes. She talks about a mom who regularly assesses her own failures before the Lord. And this is so important. If we are not regularly looking at what we are not doing well, at the areas that we need to improve, we never will improve. We will coast, or even worse, our standards will lower and we'll start going downhill. We have to be in weekly. I encourage the ladies in my membership to weekly be assessing what they are doing well and what they need to work on. Because if we are not constantly trying to do better in the areas where we are weak, we will not grow. And I don't know about you. Again, I am 44 years old, but I have so much growth that I want to achieve over the next 5-10 years of my life. So I cannot afford to not be regularly self-assessing and regularly praying about where I should be focusing next on improving. The ladies who do not show interest in improving themselves are the ones who are constantly blaming their husband, blaming their children, blaming the curriculum, blaming her schedule, or even blaming her ministries, whatever those may be. Growth accelerates when responsibility replaces excuses. Progress will always begin when ownership becomes personal. Now, let's talk about this fear of losing yourself. I feel like this is a particularly big fear for younger moms who maybe are just entering motherhood or are just in their first 5 years, or for a mother who perhaps was working before and has come home. And this is really something that modern motherhood talks about more so than a traditional motherhood standpoint. Let me just tell you, the Bible really does not support this idea of losing yourself. You're actually encouraged to lose yourself. Serving others is the way that you actually find yourself in Christ. So this whole idea of losing yourself is actually a very self-centered idea. You need to lose yourself. This commenter is very wise because she names this for what it actually is, and that is immaturity. A life that is oriented towards family and towards legacy is not a diminished life. It is actually a directed one. And self-fulfillment does not come from protecting this idea of yourself. It actually comes from meaningful work that is done well. Now let's talk about homeschool as a renaissance. And this is actually a topic that I absolutely love because I am personally experiencing the benefits of this renaissance in myself and in my homeschool. So we are talking about memorization. We are talking about shared learning. We are talking about depth in education over constant novelty. Let me just tell you a funny story. So I've been working on states and capitals probably for the last 3 years with like different kids over the course of 3 years. And I memorized these when I was in 3rd grade, but I have forgotten about half of them. And on Sunday, my son pulled out a map of the United States and he wanted me to quiz him just for fun. And so I was like, okay, sure. So I started quizzing him on states and capitals and he got all of them right. I was super proud of him. And then he was like, hey mom, I want to see how much you remember. Can I quiz you? So we turned the tables, and he started quizzing me. I got less than I should have gotten right. I only got about half of them right. But I told him, I was like, you know what? I want to start doing this every week. I'm going to make some flashcards, and then I want you to start quizzing me every Sunday because I need to have these mastered again. And he was so excited. He wanted to help me with that. And it was something that bonded us closer together. But this is something that, this is important. This is the country in which I live. I need to know those capitals. I know the abbreviations. I still have those. I was really proud of myself for that. But beyond that too, I need to be able to fill in a blank United States map. I want to be able to fill in mountain ranges and rivers and all of these things. And this is something that if you had told me 5 years ago that I would be willingly spending my time on, I would have laughed because that was just not on my radar whatsoever. But this idea that homeschool is a renaissance, it is a rebirth for all of us homeschool moms that did not receive the best education growing up. This is a second chance for us. And why wouldn't we want to develop our minds right alongside our children's? And this is really where classical education shines. Classical education is really against the fragmentation that you see in modern education. In a world shaped by constant media input, training the mind toward memory and toward mastery and towards meditation, it's honestly quietly radical. And this is not about going backwards or wishing for times past. It is about refusing the shallowness of modern education. Now let's talk about contentment without loneliness. Now, I'm not talking about isolation and I'm not talking about withdrawal, but I am talking about a woman who is anchored in purpose. She is not lonely and she's not aching for time away with the girls because her life has purpose. It's not just drudge work. It's not just, get the worksheets done, check off the checklist, do this, do this. We are forming whole people. We are forming their souls for eternity. That is such a high calling. And when that calling is clear, community really becomes a gift. It's not something that you have to chase or that you depend on for validation. When you experience it, it is fantastic, but you don't need it because your days are already so filled with purpose. And I'm not saying that I never go out with friends. I go out with friends. It comes and goes more in seasons. I just had a season like 2 weeks where I went out with 2 or 3 ladies that I hadn't seen in months, and that was wonderful to get to catch up with them. And I do go out and I visit different younger moms who are in my community who really need a Titus 2 mentor. I make myself available to these women as often as I possibly can because I know that that is so important. I was very fortunate to have that for myself when I was a younger mom, but this is not something that happens on even a weekly basis. When it comes, it's wonderful and I'm thankful for it, but it's not something that I crave. Okay, let's talk about why this all feels so radical and countercultural, because it is, let's be honest here. The whole homeschool culture recently in the last 10 years has really normalized casualness. You have moms bragging that they're homeschooling in their pajamas, or that they haven't showered in 4 days, or that they're wearing their bunny slippers and their pajama pants that, have holes all over them or whatever. You see the homeschool kids that, they live in sweatpants or athletic gear, even going to church. There's no cause for formality whatsoever. Loose days, lowered expectations, constant flexibility, and minimal filters. Formation is treated as optional and structure is treated as oppressive. So when someone actually articulates responsibility, leadership, and standards with clarity, it sounds extreme, but it isn't. It is simply weighted. So if this vision for homeschooling resonates with you, it doesn't mean that you are extreme. It means that you are responding to a gap between how your homeschool is currently running and how it could run with a few tweaks. Don't worry, the next step is not a curriculum overhaul. It's actually rebuilding the structure that is underneath everything else. So if you want help putting your days on firmer footing, start with my Homeschool Schedule Blueprint. It's about creating the structure that actually holds your homeschool together. And if you want ongoing support, accountability, and leadership level conversations with women who are taking homeschool super seriously, then that is exactly why I created the Headmistress Circle. You don't need to change everything at once, but you do need a framework that is capable of carrying higher standards. Both of those are linked below in the description.